Good evening and welcome everyone once again. This is OSCA Calabar, and this event is brought to you by Any Space Labs. It's a collaboration between OSCA Calabar and Any Space Labs. We are currently carrying out the technical training, at a space in Calabar. And for today, this workshop is about Git and GitHub. I mean, before you registered, you already knew what you were, going to look at, right? This is like a very, it's a very, very important tool, Git and GitHub, right? It's very important for software developers. Uh, yeah, so as a software developer, you need to learn how to use Git and of course the platform GitHub. Yeah, so today we'll just like have a brief overview of how to use GitHub and the basic understanding of Git, right? And how to basically get your project um you know online, right? Which is GitHub, and how to also control the versions of your software on your local computer. So today we have Ifihanagbara Olusheye. She is a software developer and a technical writer, and today should be our instructor. So yeah, um, you can write down your questions as she is taking us in the session and ask them at the end of it. So Ifihan, over to you. You have the floor now. You just give us like a, a brief introduction, the software development journey, and then you can now start like properly. Thank you so much.
All right, yeah, you can just give me like heads up on when you want me to start, and I'll just start if we have more people joining.
I didn't hear what you said.
Well, I said that you can just give me heads up on when I should start if there are more people joining, so I don't start and get like cut off
Okay,
or something.
you can start right away. You can start right away.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
3 minutes. Okay, good evening, everyone. Um, my name is Ifion, like it has been rightly said. So today we'll be looking at Git and GitHub. And before I begin, I just want to like have uh an idea of people you have here. If you're familiar with GitHub, you can use like the thumbs up reaction. If you're not familiar, you can use that thinking face reaction. So yeah, I'll just be looking out for that. Okay, seems like we have people familiar, but basically, if you're not familiar, I mean, it's also a great like place to begin. And yeah, let me just quickly share my screen. Let me see. Oh, it says I'm not allowed to share my screen.
Okay. Hold on. Let me fix that. Let me fix that.
Okay.
Okay, you can try now. You can try now.
Okay, yeah, I can. So yeah, this session is going to be like a hands-on session. Yeah, I'm going to talk like a couple of things at first, but at, at some point we'll be doing like some hands-on session and getting started with it. So let me just share my screen, and I hope everyone can like see my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Okay.
Not yet.
So but not yet. A lot of people say they can. So, yeah, I would
Okay,
begin.
yeah, I can see now. I can see now.
Okay. So yeah, so this is a Git and GitHub workshop. So we'll be looking at Git and we'll be looking at GitHub. My name is Ifihanagbara Olusheye, but I mostly go by Ifihan. So yeah, meet me, just like boring stuff about me. I go by Ifihan. I'm in the intersection of software engineering, AI, and research. So that's basically what I do these days. I'm a technical writer. I write articles. I think I post for now. I contribute to open source in my free time and a lot of communities, and that's why I'm doing this. So, before we even look at what we're doing in today's session, I just want to ask for something before we continue. So, to avoid like to avoid different issues, would be we'll be using Git. So if you are on a machine that does not come with Git pre-installed, I would advise you should install Git now. I think the link has been dropped in the comment section. So please just download Git, as I'll be going through like the theoretical part. And yeah, so what we'll be looking at today is, it looks like a lot, but in reality it's not a lot. It's just like 10 minutes thing. So we'll be looking at an introduction to version control and Git. Then we'll be looking at basic terminology and setup in Git. I think the setup is most comfort terminology, but that's fine. Then we'll be looking at basic Git commands, then an introduction to GitHub, best practices for Git and GitHub, and we'll be having a demo and yeah, just a Q&A. So that's like an overview of how the session should go. So first off, introduction to version control. Um, so what is version control? Version control is basically a system that tracks your changes to a file, or it could be a couple of files over time, so that you can recall or you can see the specific version later. So you know the way you have version history in your Google Docs, for people familiar with Google Docs and those things. You can always go back, like you're saying an history of what has happened basically. So that's just version control. So it takes like the versions and kinds of controls them, so you can always go back to the to what you were doing before, and in case maybe you need something from that particular version, you can pick it up. So yeah, it matters. Why does it matter? Basically, it matters because it prevents like loss of work. For example, let's say you are working on a project, and or you're working on something basically, and it requires maybe transferring of files, and you lost work. So version control comes into play because it's going to keep the last version that you committed, and you can always go back instead of having to start the whole project over again. Then it allows for collaboration. We'll be looking at that in data version, and it maintains like a history of your changes. So when version control is being mentioned, what comes to mind is Git. You always hear Git, but before Git came into like popularity and all, we had like earlier versions such as RCS, CBS, and the likes. So CBS um is pretty similar to Git, in the sense that, I mean, they came from the same place, right? But it's pretty similar if you use the commands and all. So yeah, that's for that. So what's now Git? After we've seen version control and all those things. So like the names, or like I've said previously, Git is a version control. But now Git, I would say it's is it version control? Yes, but they added like a twist to it. So we'll be looking at the twist. So Git is a distributed version control. So it's not just a version control. So it's distributed. And we'll be looking at what a distributed version control is. So whenever you see Git, they always put something like DVC near it. So DVC is basically distributed version control. It's a DVC system that allows multiple developers or people to work on a project without like overlapping each other's work. And the key features of Git includes it's distributed from the name. It supports branching and merging, which we'll look at. It is lightweight and it is pretty fast. So now what is a distributed version control system, a DVC or a DVCS? It's a version control where the complete code base alongside with like the full history is on the developer's computer. So it's not like you are doing version control in maybe in the cloud or something. So Git is directly on your system and it has like full version control on your system, and it has access to like the folder that you are using, especially when you initialize inside, and you can always operate it inside there. So key characteristics of a distributed version control system is that it's decentralized. So it's from decentralized, it's not just in one particular place. You can use it like different places. It has offline, it's offline basically. So you don't need an internet connection to operate Git locally, except you want to push to like a server or you want to push to a repository. So that's offline work. Then it allows for collaboration and redundancy. So the next thing we'll be looking at is basic terminologies in Git. So you have like basic terminologies in Git, and some of it replicates itself in GitHub, and we're also looking at all of that too. So repo is a storage space where your project lives, right? So a repository, people always call it repo for short. It's basically like a storage space. Think of it like a folder. It could be a folder. Yeah, it's like a folder that has everything that your project um lives, or where your project lives, or it's basically anything that your project, defines your project basically, wherever it lives, that's like a repository. So it does not have to be until you upload it to GitHub or GitLab or somewhere before you call it a repository. So on your local machine you could call it a repository. Then a commit is a snapshot of a project at a point in time. So commits are always taken as the time and the dates of which it happened. So it's like at a particular time, let's say 9 p.m. The time now is 6:33, right? And you make a commit. So it's going to track it that today is 27th of August 2024 at 6:33 p.m. I made this commit. So you can remember, like it gives you an idea. Probably you are someone that remembers things with time. So you can remember what exactly you were doing there. So that's what a commit is. And the branch is a separate line of development. So think of it as the original folder that you're on with separate changes. So the common example I used to give is the tree. So if you look at a tree has like many branches, and each branch has different lengths. So you can think of maybe one of the branch on a tree as a feature. Probably that branch on the tree has like pink fruits, and there's another branch that has maybe purple fruits. So the one thing is common amongst them. They both have fruits, right? So the fruit is like the base projects, and those different colors of fruits are like features. So you can think of a branch like that. They have like the same project, which there are different features. So for example, I could be working on, let's say I'm working on a customer management application now, let's say on one branch it is authentication, I'm trying to work on another one, I'm maybe trying to work on an LMS on the other branch. We have the same goal in mind, a customer management application, right? And and but I have like different features on my branches. And then you have merge. So when you hear merge, like the name says, you are combining changes from different branches. So let's say now I'm done with the authentication feature and I want to now add it, or let's say I'm done with my customer feature and I now want to add it to the authentication. So I would merge the two branches and I would turn it to one. So that's like the whole thing with merging. So installation and setting up, like I had said, if you've not downloaded it by now, you should start downloading, or you should have downloaded it actually. So let's be looking at it. So the first thing is you first install Git. So you have to head over to the official Git website to download for any operating system. I think for Mac it comes like pre-installed, and I don't know for Linux, but I know for Windows you have to like install it. So basically, you just install it, and yeah, that's it. So when you install it, follow the installation process. Let me just see how many people here have um installed Git prior to now. Okay, so all right, so I can continue. So yeah, after downloading Git, so you just run this command git config. That's if, so you are going to, this is basically to configure Git to your system, because Git will be looking at, or you'll be looking for a user and you'll be looking for an email to associate its command to. So it would need um it will need your username and you will need your email, so you can do this command. I would have loved to do it on my system, but if I do it, I have to like undo my Git and then I have to do it again, and it's kind of stressful. It's kind of complicated on my system, so I can't like undo it. But let me get the command for you. I would post it on the chat section. Just a minute. Let me get it. Okay. So the first one is basically configuring your username. So that space where I wrote your name, you're going to put your name there, and please, you have to actually use the comments. The quotation. Is it quotation marks? Yeah, it's not quotation marks. Yeah, I can't remember. But yes, you have to use those. Yeah, I think it's quotes. So you have to use those quotes for your username, and then the same thing too for your email. So I would put it here. So basically, what you are doing is you are trying to just get Git to be installed, or to be, no, to be configured globally. So there are several ways people do it. Like they do it, maybe they just want to configure GitHub for a particular folder or something. I mean, there you can do it like that, and there are guides on how to do that in the GitHub the GitHub documentation. So I will not be covering that because that could be a little bit tricky, and I don't want to lose anyone in what we're doing here. So yeah, we'll be installing it, so we'll be configuring it globally, and yeah, your name and your username and your email. So one thing I will say is that if you are using for the email, please try and make sure it's the same with the one on your GitHub, so that to avoid like any form of error that might come up. So yeah, you can you can do that, and I'll just maybe wait for like some seconds and ask if everyone is on the same page as me. So yeah, if you like done this, you can just give me a thumbs up, or you can just put it on the chat section that you are done it already. Okay, I've seen one person. Okay. Yeah, if you have questions. Oh wait, I was saying, yeah, you run it on your command line. So open your command line and just run it there. So you don't have to like cd into any. You don't have to move into any directory. You just run it there. Or yeah, git bash too. If you use git bash, that can work for you. So you can use git bash. You can use your terminal. You can use basically any command line interface tool that you have to run it. I won't actually I won't recommend PowerShell because I used to have issues with PowerShell whenever I run Git. It's always telling me thing was not registered or so. So I just like dumped it. So I don't know if anyone might be facing that issue, but just to be on the safe side, except you know how to go around it, just use like anything apart from like PowerShell for it. Yeah. You can use like the command line that comes with it, command line, git bash, terminal, WAP, anyone. So yeah, are there more people that have done this, and so that we can proceed? Okay, I'll take that as a yes, so we can just continue. In case you're looking for the command is in the chat section, and so I'll just continue. So we can cover what we want to cover today. So yeah, this is all on configuring Git on your system. So looking at basic Git commands. So like I mentioned earlier, Git has some commands that it runs. Like if you are a developer now and you write probably Python or JavaScript or something, there's always a way you would run your scripts or your code or something. The same way we have commands for that. We also have like commands for um Git. So we'll be going over some of the commands. So creating, so when you create a repository, you initialize it. So for initialization, you have Git init. So the init there is just initialize. So that's the first thing you do before you start using Git in your folder. So basically it kind of introduces Git into that repository or folder. So if you just start or you start typing it and you've not initialized Git inside before, it's going to be very, very hard, and it's going to throw an error because Git does not recognize it does not recognize it's being initialized inside there. So it's going to be like, "Ah, what are you saying? I don't understand." So it's going to throw up an error that you can't find any Git something also. So Git init is to initialize the folder to introduce Git. So track changes, you have Git add the file name, or you can just do Git add space full stop. So that's like lazy man something if you just want to add everything. So let's say I have like 500 files and I don't want to be doing git add this, git add that. I'll just do git add space full stop to that. So committing changes, you want to commit changes, you do git commit hyphen m your commit messages. So it's not hyphen, it's actually a flag. So they are called flags. So that's flag m, it should stand for message. Yeah, it stands for message. So git commit flag message, your commit message. So what did you do? Did you add a file? Did you delete a file? Did you create a feature? Did you work on an issue? Your commit message is always there. And yeah, I'm going to keep on hammering that your commit message is should be as descriptive as possible. So it's not meant to be something like, oh, made changes, oh, pushed, oh, something. Because now that you just put, oh, made changes, and let's say you have an issue and then you have to roll back to a particular version, and then you're just saying your commit messages when you do maybe git log or something. You are saying made changes, made changes, made changes. So now you now have to go through like all the made, quote unquote, made changes command that you've done to find the version that you're looking for. So the commit message is just you putting like a tag on what you've done so far. So instead of putting very vague commit messages, you put descriptive commit messages. And at the same time, it does not mean you should start writing like a document for your commit messages that, oh, maybe when you were sleeping, you woke up and then something ministered to you that you should change S to P. And after you change S to P, the thing has started running and then it showed one error in your command line and then you stopped the server, you started it again or something, and then you're writing that whole story in your commit message. That's like very, very long and it's not descriptive. So um it has to be short, it has to be descriptive. Basically it's holding like what you've done so far. So maybe you worked on like, I will go back, you worked on like the authentication feature and maybe you left logout process. Then you can say, oh, maybe worked on the authentication feature except logout. So now let's say you go for your team meeting or something and then they now ask you that, oh, this feature is missing and then people have been working on it. Then you can now go through your commit messages and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's true. When I worked on the authentication feature, I missed out the logout function. So with that, you can at least track your work or something. So that's the whole thing behind commit messages. So if you want to check like your history, you have git status. So git status is going to give you like the status of your repository. So how many files do you have on track? How many files do you have that have been modified? How many files do you have that have been committed or have been added or deleted or anything? You're going to have like a status report of that your folder. And the last one, git, is that last one? Not sure. And yeah, the next one is git log. So you want to view the log. So you have git log. So it shows you like a log of what you've done so far. So yeah. So you want to create branch like I mentioned before. Um let's say you want to work on a different feature, you want to work on something different, you create like a branch with git branch the name, and you switch branches with git checkout and you merge a branch with git merge. So I know I've said a lot of commands. We're going to be testing each of these when we do GitHub or when we start with GitHub. So those commands they may look like a lot at first and maybe you have to write them down sometimes, but like everything, once you start using them constantly, you get used to it. So it's if you use it like consistently, you would get used to it. So it's fine if you write it down. It's fine if you always have to check up on the command and run it when you need it. So yeah, that's that on Git. So like I mentioned, we would be doing the whole demoing on Git when we're doing GitHub. So we'll look at the two together. So the next thing, what is GitHub? Um so GitHub is a platform. Oh, before I continue, so Git is not just ideally, yes, a lot of developers use it, but I mean anyone can use it. I could be someone that wants to be versioning my work and I would use it. So it's not just necessarily, oh, it's for developers, oh, it's for people. You can use it on your files. Let's say you have like files on your system and you want to versionize them or you want to keep track of when you're making changes to a particular Word document, you can use Git. It's not just for devs per se, because even the place where I learned how to use, like the video I learned how to use Git, the person wasn't using it for anything dev wise. He was just using it for files basically. like files on a system, trying to change stuff and all. So so that's that. Um so now we're moving to GitHub, right? So what's GitHub? GitHub is a platform that is owned by Microsoft, and it's for hosting Git repositories and encouraging collaboration. It's basically like one of the homes of open source. So whenever they mention open source, there's always like GitHub is always coming up because it's very popular and is a very, very good way to start collaboration and contributing to open source. So you have features such as repository hosting, so you can host your repository just like the way where you post pictures on Twitter, WhatsApp, or Instagram, anywhere you where you post pictures. The same way you can just think of your repo as a picture that you want to post, and it can be public or private depending on how you set it. So we'd also be looking at how to create a repository here. So yeah, you can it has version control integration. So Git is integrated, or you have basically version control integration like Git inside GitHub. Then you have collaboration tools that encourage collaboration, such as pull requests, issues, um project management. So um for pull requests, we'll look at pull requests in this. We're not looking at issue. So issue is basically you just giving, those are terminologies in GitHub. So it's you just giving, it's you giving, like maybe you're reporting a bug or you're reporting a feature. So it's like a public page for all those kind of things. And then you have project management. So you have like, um, let me see, what's that project management tool again? I can't remember anyone now. Yeah, ClickUp, or maybe is it Atlas? Kind of Trello, yes. So you have that kind of integrated properly inside GitHub. So you don't need to start stressing of you don't need to start stressing yourself on like going back and forth. You don't need to start stressing yourself on going back and forth in like going back from Trello and coming back. Going to Trello and coming back. So you also have CI/CD, that's for DevOps, or you're looking for operations, yes. Code hosting and browsing. Yeah, you can host your code. GitHub pages is there for you, like for static pages. You can browse through your code. So basically you can browse through your code like let's say you're looking for a file, right? So you browse through it to get like maybe you're looking for a function, or you're looking for a function. It could be a function, it could be like a variable, so you can browse through it. And if time permits me, I would go through like a repository that I have and show you that. Also open source contribution, like I mentioned, open source is very popular with platforms like GitHub. So yeah, you can always contribute to open source and with GitHub. So another thing is, if you don't have an account on GitHub, you can sign in. Sorry, you can create an account with GitHub. And if you have an account with GitHub, you can just sign in, because we'll be doing like two practical sessions today. Short ones actually. So yeah. So Git is not GitHub. My hands have been itching me to move to this next slide like crazy. Like Git is not GitHub, because one common question I get or people ask is Git GitHub? And no, it's not GitHub. Like I said before, Git is basically a version control or a distributed version control system, right? And the GitHub is like a platform. So Git is integrated into GitHub, but Git is not GitHub. It just happens to have the name GitHub, so it's not integrated. So it's not the same. They are not owned by the same person, or they are not owned by the same person, or they don't do the same thing. So moving on, I think it's like basic terminologies too. Like in Git, we have basic terminologies, and I will be showing us. So first thing, um, like I said previously, almost the same we have almost the same things among Git and GitHub, just like a couple of things that have been added to it. So repo is a storage space where your file is kept. Think of it as a folder. A commit, like I said previously, it's a snapshot of your repository at a specific point in time. It contains the time and it contains the dates where you made those changes with your message. And like I said, your message should always be descriptive as possible. It shouldn't be um very big. Then you have a branch. I think for this one I kind of explained it like more elaborate than the previous ones. So a branch is a parallel version of your repository, so you can work on this. Sorry, different. Okay, so like I'll use the example again. A tree, my tree example. So a tree has different branches. Well, a normal tree has different branches, but this my particular tree has. So this tree is a fruit tree, right? And we have like several branches. And on one branch, I have pink fruits. On another branch, I have black fruits. On another branch, I have maybe yellow fruits or something. So those are different branches. Something is common to all of them. They all have fruits that is coming from the tree, but they have different colors. So those are like different features on the tree. So those colors are the features on the tree that are independent from each other. So on the tree, you can find like a blue fruit on the branch of an orange fruit, or on the branch of a pink fruit. Each color has different each branch has like different colors, and they are independent. So it now depends if the owner of that tree wants to join them together, and it would like merge them together. So that's when the two of them will now be one. So next up we have pull request, and it's popularly popularly called PR. So PR is pull request. If you hear it from the mouth of the developer, they're basically talking about pull request. So it's basically you requesting to merge your changes to um a particular branch. So let's say you're coming from a forked repository to an original repository, and you want your changes to be made or to be reflected on that original repository. You open like a pull request. So what's the fork? The fork is a personal, it's like a copy of the original repository basically, and it allows you to make changes without affecting the original project. So think of a fork as clone, because it's basically you cloning, but now you are not cloning the repository from your account. You are cloning it from another person's account. So for example, let's say I go to GitHub and I see this interesting project, but then I want to experiment with the project, and I don't want to like make changes to that repo. If I don't have access, so I can't even make changes. Or I want to have like my own, and I want to like make changes. So the first thing you do is that, or the first thing I would do rather, is that I would click on the fork button and make a clone to my account, and then I can pull, or I can pull that thing. I can pull it and I can make changes. So that's like a fork. And yeah, they would ask like, oh, is fork when I fork or clone a repository from another person's account, is it legal? As far as it's public, there's always like the fork button, but yeah, you can only read the license. to be on the safe side, because yes, that's just it. So yeah, clone is you making a copy of the repository. So ideally, if you're coming from like forking a repository, you clone it. So that's especially if you want to make changes locally. So if you want to make changes offline, you don't want to use code spaces, you don't want to use any of those online tools, you clone like you clone the repository to your local machine, and you can begin processing and you can push later. So merge is the process of combining changes from one branch to another. So going back to my tree example, let's say I have um a pink fruit, and I have a pink fruit and I have an orange fruit. Or let's say I have a yellow fruit and I have um a blue fruit, and I want to merge the two of them to give me green. So I would merge the two branches and then I'll have like green fruit. So it's either when you can either open a pull request for merging, or you can just merge locally. Anyone that works for you. So an issue, like I said before, is a tool for tracking bugs basically. Is it task? Is it features you want? Anything that is related to the repository. You can ask questions, you can assign labels to anything, you can discuss there basically. And lastly, we have a README. So a README, like the name says, README. So it's always a markdown file that provides an overview of the repository and information of the repository, basically how to use or how to get started with that repository. So you first read the repository before moving forward. So that's like what it does. So ideally, it's meant to be descriptive enough in the sense that you can get um you can get as much information about that project from the repository as possible. So that's about readmes. So best practices for Git and GitHub. So we're looking at few that I practice to a great extent, a very great extent actually. Like let's say like 95%. There might not be much. There are much, right? But to me, these are the ones that I think are priority. I might have left some out of the list, but as time goes on, you learn like more best practices. So the first one is write clear commit messages. I already made that clear. So you don't come and you write, oh, testing, oh, final push, then something goes wrong, and I'm like, oh, not the final push. And that one, you're writing made changes to what exactly? Did you make changes to the let's say to the payout feature? Did you make changes to the index or HTML file? What exactly did you do? It's going to give people like a knowledge of what you did in that commit, so they don't have to go like through the whole commit to know exactly what you've done. So the commit message that gives them an overview of what you've done, right? And it makes work easier for people. So use branches effectively. You don't need to like be creating so many branches that it's not needed. So you when it's needed you create. So maybe for example, you just want to, like for example, like when I was setting up the repository, I did not have to create a branch first. I could just make my first push for that. But and also effectively in the sense that maybe you're working on a feature and you know that this feature could be breaking the um current main repository. Um you make a branch, and I'll just jump to the fourth one that says keep the main branch clean. So it's not that every push you make should be going to the main branch. So the main branch is like the master branch. It used to be called master branch before, when it's called main branch. So is the branch that contains the latest work. So that latest work is in quotes. It contains the latest work of your repository, and ideally is meant to be kept as clean as possible. So you're not meant to be, for everything you do, you're not meant to be. like writing everything on your main branch, you don't push every single thing or every single change to your main branch. You create like branches. So for example, I'm working on um I'm working on different features. So let's say I'm working on I'll go back to authentication because that's like the easiest thing that comes to mind now. So yeah, you work on the authentication and then you want to work on let's say um orders, like ordering kind of thing. So basically you can't just keep on working on the same thing like on the same branch, because after some time it might not have any effect per se, but let's say an issue happens and you've deployed like your main branch and people are using it, and then you mistakenly push something that breaks your main branch. So now what you have in your pipeline is going to be broken, and you now have to start going through steps and going back and back. So to avoid that and to improve organization in your project, it's proper to use branch. So the third one, because I skipped number three, I went to number four. Regularly synchronize your forks. So whenever you are working on a project and probably you had to fork the repository to your account, always try to synchronize forks across branches. Um, so that you're not working on like something that someone had worked on, and then when you make a pull request, they are telling you, "Oh, this person has worked on it," or maybe you are facing a bug offline, and then you use like 10 hours to solve the particular issue, but it has already been solved on your um it has already been solved on the original repository, so you just wasted time. Also yeah, it also goes with saying that before you like work on, if you are working, okay, let's say you now have access to the repository, you are directly pushing to the repository. So before you like start working on anything on the repository, always try to pull any changes, because if you don't pull changes that have been committed or pushed, when you want to push, there's going to be an error, and then you're going to be faced with, oh, you're trying to figure out how to pull the changes, and then that thing can start giving you error, and then you're looking at doing extra stuff. Maybe if you're like me, I don't like stress. You now have to copy the whole like your changes, delete the repository on your on your computer, and then install it again. And like, or maybe you want to go the hard route. You are using like Git commands to figure things out. So that's not the hard route. That's actually the recommended route. But some people like doing lazy things. So yeah, so you would always have to push you always have to like pull your changes before you push, no, before you even actually start writing. So let's say you want to start writing like you want to start writing something, just like pull the changes first, the latest changes, start writing, make your commit and push, and like that for branches, be it on any branch you are on or anything. So document your project. So you can do like the best project in the world, but if you don't have a readme file, it's going to be very, very bad, and people will not be able to properly communicate to your project. So always try to document your repository, try to document like everything you do. So it's going to be very easy. So yeah, okay. So now this is the quote unquote fun part of the workshop today. I've spoken a lot, my mouth hurts, and yeah, we'll be doing like quick demos. So okay. So what just happened? So this session is going to be as practical as possible. So I'll just need you to follow through, and I'm going to be as slow as possible so that everyone can get an angle. Is it angle and angle? I don't know. Anyone that float anyone boots. You shall get angle of what I'm doing. So let me see. So the first thing we're going to be doing is creating a repo. Well, before we do creating a repo, let me stop sharing screen and like share my whole screen totally. So You're going to see like my terminal. You can see and you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So it's not going to be like I'm saying do as I say, but I'm not doing as everybody's doing. So I stop sharing and share my entire screen. So I hope everyone can see like my entire screen. All right, so let's go. So the first thing that I would want to do is go to github.com. I don't know why this is not clicking, but basically you just go to github.com and yeah. So this is how GitHub looks like, and uh if you are following people, you are going to be saying things like this. If you are not following people, you're not going to say. If you are following like people, you're following projects, you're going to follow things. So you're going to be seeing them like that. Also this like profile of so this is a profile here that has like what you've done, if you're in organizations. Let me see. So you go to your repository, and you have like a list of things you've done and all this kind of basically everything about you. You have pattern and all those kind of things there. Also, if you start projects, I start projects from time to time. Things that basically catch my interests. I think I've stopped that self. I've just been lazy. So that's that on GitHub. So the first thing I'll be going back and forth with this. So so we're creating a project, sorry, creating a repository. So the first thing is click the new button, choose the repository name. You can add a description, select the repository visibility, and then you click on repository. So I'll be doing that here, so you can just follow through. Okay, so the first thing is you look for click for new. So it's always is this plus button here. So you click on plus, and then you see new repository. So you see different things, but this is what you're interested in. So you click on new repository, it takes you to this, and then I can call it my first repo. So yeah, this is the repository name, this is the owner, that's me. So I can, the description is optional though, but I mean you can always write it. So this is my first repository on GitHub. Then so that's my repository, that's the description. So public and private, right? So what's the difference between public and private? Once again, I'll go back to using social media accounts. So public is like a public account. Anyone can see the account, also the repository, just like how anyone can see a public account on any social media. And private, you only want selected people to see your repository, so you use you make it private. So that's for that on private. So when it's private, if you share anybody the link, they won't be able to see anything there because you didn't give them access to it. So you have this initialize with a readme file. You can decide to initialize with a readme file. That's if you don't have a readme file. But if you have a readme file, you can take this away. So git ignore is something else. Maybe you're working on a project and you don't want some things to be added to your GitHub. So that's that. And you have like a license. So a license, you have various licenses on GitHub. You have, I know there's the Apache 3.0 and the most popular one that a lot of people use, MIT license. And then you have this BSD. I can't remember if it's the full name is BSD, but you have licenses that let me even click on it. So this is here BSD, you have the Apache license, you have the GNU, you have the MIT. So these are like licenses that you can use on your repository to control what people can do and not do with your code. So do you want people to be able to clone your code but not make changes to it or replicate it in another project and all those kind of things? So there are like licenses for that and anything. So yeah, so after doing that, you click on create repository. So that's how to like create a repository in GitHub. So yeah, so this is the first repository that I have created on my GitHub account. And yeah, this is how it looks like if you don't have anything to put on it and you have something like this. So I'll come back to it and I'll just check. Has everyone or did everyone um is everyone like on the same page as me? I was too fast. Okay, three people. Okay, so I would see that as a yes. So we're all on the same page. So yeah, that's just basic. I just copied everything that I did here. These are the steps, and so that's for creating a repository. So the next step is cloning the repository to your local machine. So cloning the repository to cloning the repository to your local machine. So going back here, you can clone this repository to your machine, or what we can do is we can start by creating something pretty simple on our machine. So let me just go back here. So this is how to clone like a repository. So before we like clone the repository, let me just run like a step ahead. So committing, let's go and let's commit changes and push to GitHub. So um you have this account, or you have this repo on your account, and you go to, so now we're going to our command line, right? And you cd into any folder. So you can create a folder on your machine, and you can either let me you can create a new folder, or you can do something. So I would be moving to my I'll be moving to my finder. I think this is my finder here, and let me just come to my projects. um Let me create like a new folder. So I'll call it first repo, and that's the first repository that I have on my GitHub. And then let me just open it here. New window. Okay, so I open I would open the file that I created. I don't know why this is doing so many zeros. So I go to my projects folder and I pick my first repository, and then I open it. So this is my first repository on my that I've opened as my account. So let's just make a file called main.py, and I do something like print hello world. Let me see, hello world, world. How do you spell world again? Try. So I have this here that says hello world, right? And as you can see, this is in my first repo account. So now if I come to so now I have to cd. So cd means like you're changing directory. So you click, like the project folder, the folder that I want to use is my project folder. So what I would have to do is I have to change my directory to um that my first repo. So how do I change? I use cd first. What's even the name of the repository again? First repo. So cd first repo, and I click on it. So now I am inside my first repo. And then if I do something like git push, right? I would have like not a git repository or any of the parent repository. So it's looking for this dot git and you can't find it. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to do a git init. So like I said, git init means to initialize. So when I do git init, so you can see it says initialized empty git repository in blah 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 blah. So when I come here, you would see like before I did the whole git thing, there was nothing that was attached to this my to this my file. But then I have a U that is now attached to it, and basically that's because I introduced git into. And what does U mean? U means on track. So it acknowledges git acknowledges that this thing is inside, or git acknowledges that this file is inside like where I'm existing, but it's not tracked. So you would now have to like it's telling you that it's on track. So in case anything should happen to anything should happen, maybe loss of like current work, since it is on track, it is not going to like give you back. So that's where the whole commit thing comes in. So the next thing you have to do is git add main.py, because that's my file I'm working with. And then I click on git add that, and then I come back here, and then you see my u turned to a. And what does a mean? A means that it has been added. So an index has been added to the git. So before it was not tracked, right? And now it has been added. So it's kind of acknowledges the folder, the file inside my git repository that I have locally. So if I do something like my git status, so it will tell you that um these changes need to be committed, and this is what needs to be committed. So we are going to commit my file, and to commit you do git commit flag m, and then I'll say added main.py file, and that's that. So I push that, and then it gives me one file change, blah blah blah. And then this create mode, this is like your commit number. So if I do something like git log, you would see it's basically somewhere here, the 100, but it's like your git, it registers it, and this like the hash. This is the hash that your commit message does for you, and you can see that it gives me Tuesday 27 at 7:22 UTC time. In 2024 I added a main.py file. So after you've done this, if I now say, oh, I want to git push, it's going to tell me that, oh, there's no destination or there's no URL. So why this is happening is because this is going to be my first push, and there's no URL that I've added. So this is where this comes in. So I already have like an existing repository. You know, I said the repository is like your folder. So I already have like an existing folder. I have like an existing repository on my system. And now I want to connect what is here. This my main.py. I want to connect it to this my first repository. So what do? I come here. I'm not going to use this because I'm not creating like a new repository. This one is already existing, and I click on this. You just copy this basically, and you come to your command line and you paste it, and you press enter. So the first thing is it has added the origin. So it's adding the origin so that anytime you push, it knows where its destination is. So it's not going to be waiting that, oh, okay, where are you going to, or where are you coming to, or where are you coming from. So now I come here, I click on refresh, and yeah, I have a main.py inside there. When I click on a main.py, it's going to open up hello world. And what do I have here? I have hello world. So I have been able to like successfully carry what is on my system to repository. And if I share this with you, if I share this with you here, you're going to see like what I have done. So it's public, right? I made the visibility to be public, so anybody can see it, anybody can go there and do what they want to do. So that's the whole thing on Git, and that's the whole thing on like pushing to GitHub. So we've committed changes and we've pushed to GitHub. So before I even proceed, are we all on the same page? I want to know. So Olakunle, do you have like a question, or you're just raising hand? So
Yeah,
if you
I
have
have a
like,
question.
yeah, so if you have like a question, I will take it at the end. So I just like go through so I don't have any interruptions. But yeah, I'll take your question when we're done. Uh so yeah, let's go back to um this previous one, cloning repository to your local machine. So so now let's say I don't have this repository. I don't have this repository on my I don't have this repository here on my account or on my machine, and I want to clone it. So these are the steps on cloning it. So you copy the URL from you copy the URL from GitHub. You open your terminal. When you open your terminal, you navigate to the directory you want, and you run the command git clone repository URL. So let's quickly do that, right? Let me come out of this first repository. So to come out of a repository, you do cd dot dot, and it takes you to the next layer of your folder structure. So the first thing you would want to do, like this thing says, is copy the URL from GitHub. So I can decide to copy this one, right? I can decide to copy anyone, but let me look for any one repository on GitHub that I can copy, or yeah, I can just clone. So as it's loading, ouch. So I have like first repo. Let me do like first repo thing. Um, let me look for anything that is interesting. I'm a Python person, sorry, so I always go for Python. So yeah, this is a demo for my first repo. So yeah. So the first thing you do is you copy like the link. So there are several ways to clone. Either you use HTTPS, which is very common, you do SSH, or you use GitHub CLI. So GitHub has their own CLI, and you install it, or something. You actually install it first. So or you can open with GitHub desktop. That's if you have GitHub desktop, or you can download zip. Well, if you download zip, you're not going to download the version history. You're not going to download the version history. So it's better you download like using the link, because the link comes with the version history of that repository. So I just click on this. I come here, copy URL to your clipboard. I come to my command line and I click on, I type, let me go back to it. So I've navigated to my directory where I want to clone the repository, and then I do git clone, and then I paste it. So this is it, and I press enter. So it clones into first lab. So let's go over this. It is cloning into first lab. Um, First lab is the name of the repository. So it's going to create a folder called first lab, and it's going to like download everything that you have, or everything that is inside that folder into everything that's inside that repository into the folder. So that's that. Yeah. So the next thing I think we've spoken about committing changes and pushing to GitHub. So yeah, before I move forward again, are we all on the same page? So I would know. All right. So I'm seeing the question: can it be done with your mobile? It's advisable on PC actually. So yeah, committing changes and pushing to GitHub. We've done this. So now we are going to clone a fork repository, and I'll be providing a repo that we all will be using for this process. So I like some minutes or like an today basically I created a repo that we can use for something like this. Let me get it in my list of repositories. Yeah, so this is the repo that we will be using. So I'm going to copy the link and I'm going to copy it here. So everyone just go to this particular link. I think let me just pin it so everybody can see it. So go to this GitHub, go to this GitHub repository, and yeah, you should be seeing something like this. So you should be seeing something like this. And basically we're going to use this to work. So let me go over the rules or steps rather on like cloning a fork repository. So first thing is you have to click the fork button at the top right, and then you select your GitHub account, and you go to your GitHub profile and you go to that repository that was forked, and you click on code. After I click on code, basically you do the whole same cloning process that you've done in like your that you've done basically. So I would go over this, but before I go over this, let me change directories because I want to do the same thing. So yeah, let's come here. So because I am the owner of the repository, I won't be able to like fork the whole copy on my own repository. But basically, let me show you how a repository works. So I come here and I click on this, and you would see this is what you're going to see when you try to create a new fork of a repository. And you see the account. So I happen to be in like several organizations, but you have to pick like your name because that's where you want to clone it to. So you create fork, and yeah, it should only take a few seconds actually. So you can see that I have it, and then this is how it's going to look like. So when you're done with like doing the whole cloning process, you should have this first lab. Then you should have this under that says it was forked from this. So this is the main library. So it's kind of attributing or it's giving reference to where I got that repository from. So it's not like it's my own thing. I got it from someone. So that's the same thing you're going to do right now. So everyone just go here. Let me refresh to see how many people are following. So I have two people that have done this. So I'll need more people. So that's how I know how we're following. So just like um just do the same process. You come here and like work your own copy. So let me see how many people. So we still have two people. Are people having like issues with it? Let me check. Do we have issues, or it's just taking time, or there's a step you don't get? Yeah. So let me just refresh one more time. So it's still two. So I'll take it as it's just two people that are following me. Or let me see. How many people are following in like how many people are following here? Like on their laptops. Just one. Okay. Alright. So yeah. So when um you get this repository or you fork the repository, the next step is for you to clone. So so how do you clone? The same process of cloning. So you click on code, yeah, get the link, and you go to your directory of choice, and then you click, you say git clone, and then you paste it, and then that's it. So like I said, this is your folder's name because it is the name of the repository. So it's going to create a folder in the name of the repository. And the next thing I just have to do is I just have to cd into it Calabar demo, and I am right inside there. And you can see that it shows me like git main because it already knows that there's a git repository, or there's a git repository inside, and I can do something like git log to know what has been done. So you can see that this is my commit message. The head, so head is basically where like your pointer is. The head is at main, origin main, and the origin is at head. And then the author, you can see that if you like if you clone like the Fox repository, you'll see this is the author. So this is my GitHub name. The author is going to be my GitHub name and my email and the date, the time I pushed my first commit on this place. So this is why you like download or you clone with the link, because it's going to give you a run through of all the logs. So you can see the users that did it, you can see what they did, and you can always go back to that commit hash. So like I said, this is the hash. So whenever you need like maybe a commit hash, this is what you're going to like use. Maybe you want to go to a particular commit, you use the hash to go to a particular commit. So yeah, that's for that. Let me just refresh one more. Let me have hopes that more people that have done it. So we have three. Yay, that's progress. So yeah. So yeah, that's that. So creating a branch and making changes. So like I said, a branch is basically is basically like a um parallel version of your repository. So you have it somewhere, you can do different things on that particular branch without making changes to the main thing you have. So so let's create a new branch. So to create a new branch, you would let's go through it. At least okay, the stuff is here. We can just look at it here. So the first thing you do is you do git branch, and what's the branch? You give it a branch name. So you can say maybe you can give it your name actually, and you click on that. So now if you do git branch, just git branch alone, you see we have two branches, and this star is on main, meaning I'm on my main branch. But then I have another branch called Ethereum, but this star is not there. So this star is basically telling you that, oh, I am on this particular branch. So now I want to switch to Ethereum. So we do the next thing you do is git check out Ethereum. That's the name of the branch. So you can make it anything. It doesn't have to be my name. It can be your name. It can be anything basically. So I click on enter and you see it says switched to branch Ethereum. So if I now do git branch again, you'd see that this star has moved to Ethereum. So now we're no longer on main branch anymore. We're now on Ethereum branch. So so with that, I would go to my repository and I'll make any file of my choice and commit the changes and do not push yet. So you don't push yet. We're not pushing yet. So let me open like my VS code somewhere. So yes, I trust the code. I come here and you can create it any file. You can do .js, you can do I don't know, CS. It can be anything. But like I said, I'm a Python person. It can even be a txt file actually. Basically, just create any file that you can write inside. So then you write anything inside this. My name is, so you can do some, you can just write anything inside. My name is Ifihanagbara and this is a file for my pull request. So yeah, that's that, and I save it. So you can see that it's showing you again, meaning on track. So Git knows that, oh, this thing is not tracked, and I'm not tracking it. So if perhaps anything happens on this branch, you're not going to get this demo.py file back. So on track. So yeah, basically that's how to work on like a new branch. So now I have, this is me here, and we'll be switching branches and we'll be seeing like differences. But at the moment, I can't switch my branch except I commit changes. Well, I can switch, but I'll have to stash. But that's not for this class. So or for this workshop. So at the moment now, we have to commit before we can switch branches because we have an untracked change. And Git would not say, oh, he's trying to track this one, he's trying to track another one. So it's basically like um it's basically you like you're eating and then someone brings food for you and then the person is like, yeah, you're almost rounding up the food and then the person is now like, oh, um oh, eat this food, and you're like, I have to finish eating this one, and the person is forcing you, like, I mean, you eat this food. So let me finish this one I'm eating now. So basically, that's how you are doing to Git if you don't like commit your changes before like switch branches. You're trying to force Git to do so many things, and Git will just throw errors at you. So yeah, so we're not pushing yet. We'll still push. Um, where am I again? So opening a pull request. So before we push, we're going to commit. We've not committed our changes. So you commit your changes to git commit slash m, sorry, flag m, or added a demo file. And you can see it's saying that it throws me an error that nothing is added to commit. So that's because I did not add my file. So you have to add your file first before you make a commit. So it's like a step-by-step process. So you can't jump committing without adding. So I have to add my demo.py and I can decide to do git add dots, and then I would, you can see here it's going to turn to a, and then I come here and I do git commits flag m added a demo file. So for commit messages, there are several ways you can write commit messages. I like starting my commit messages with lower cases, For some of my commit messages, I always add like a prefix, like, oh, maybe it's a choice, a feature, it's a bug, it's something. So basically, it depends on how the the repository says states I should write my commit message. So, but for now, it's quite kind of flexible, so I don't need to worry about that. So I click on it, so you can see now I can commit. And when we come here, you can see that everything has disappeared. So that means that now this my demo.py lives in my Git history. So now if you want to switch branch, it's the same thing to Git branch main. So I can switch, okay, sorry, Git checkout main, and I can switch to main. And when I come here, I can see that this my demo is not here at all. It's just these two. And if I switch back to Git checkout, oh wow, checkout Ifihanagbara, you see it says switch, and I have my demo here. So Git already recognizes my demo, my demo file in my Ifihanagbara branch. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do Git um push origin my branch name. So I'm going to do this, and wow, I have this already. So you can see it says enumerating blah blah blah, all of this. So you can see that it says to, if you're on this new branch, so he has acknowledged that I have a new branch. So if I come here and I
Is it just me? I can't hear you anymore. If you are you still there? Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I
into
can hear
that,
you.
I have like,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Um.
yeah, thank
Yeah, I
you.
can hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear you. I think it's the network.
Yeah,
All right. So, but
yeah,
she's back up now. Okay. Go on.
yeah. I was trying
You
to
can go on.
refresh. Yeah, thank you. I was trying to refresh my something. I wanted to say something. So yeah, you can see that it already acknowledges my Ethereum branch that was created locally here, and I have it here. So you're going to see something like this. So for people that are following, so now that you've forked my repository and you've cloned your, that's your own copy, right? So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to open a pull request. So opening a pull request, so what's a pull request? Like we said, you're basically requesting for your changes to be merged into the main repository. So you go to the original repository on GitHub. So meaning you go to this my repository on GitHub here, where that's the original repository. Then the next thing you're going to do is that GitHub automatically detects that you've pushed changes to a branch, because like you can see, I didn't even have to refresh at a point. It just told me that, oh, there are some recent pushes. So you go to that and you click on a compare and pull request. You click on the compare and pull request button on the original main page. So you don't have to stay on your own forked repository in your account. So you're going to see something like this, something exactly like this, and then you click on it, and then it's going to tell you, oh, want to make changes. So you're going to see something like this at first, right? So it's going to tell you, oh, from base main to this. So now you're not comparing across, it's going to tell you you're comparing across branches, but you're not comparing across branches, they are comparing across forks. So you have to read carefully, right? It says open a pull request, create a pull request by comparing changes across two branches. So you're basically comparing two branches. But now that you're working with from a fork repository, you have to do it across forks. So you will click on compare across forks, and then it's going to bring out my account and the branch. your account and the branch. So you're going to compare, and you're going to make your pull request to my main branch because I want it to share my main branch. So it has a title. I can call it added a demo file, or I can say added my own file. You can make yours as descriptive as possible, and you see, it shows you like what you've done. This is what I've done. So GitHub is very, very detailed with like everything they do. So you don't have to always cram and cram and cram everything like that. So you click on create pull request and it would create. So yeah, that's the pull request. So for those following, you can do the same thing. So I'd be looking out for like pull requests for people that are following. So yeah, dismiss. So yeah, is anyone at this point, or I was too fast? Um, all right. Luckily, I'll come to your question. So I still see I have this. I have the. I have this like still one person. So yeah, I think I'll just start maybe taking answers now. Sorry, questions. So yeah, Olakunle, you can ask your question.
Yeah, I didn't get the compare across Fox facts. I don't understand what that means.
Okay, so comparing across books is you basically comparing from the original repository to your repository where you've made like your changes. So ideally, how a compare fork would look like is the name. So I can't do that. Let me see. So you're going to do you're going to like compare across forks. So you can see this is the base repository and this is the sorry, I don't know, my network went off. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, I was explaining, but luckily, did you get what I was saying or I should re-explain?
Yeah, please re-explain. Okay, so let me
Okay,
ask you like the question.
all
What's
right.
actually confusing me is like I'm seeing there are two options before I click on like compare across Fox. I'm seeing your own like repo, and I'm seeing almost like I'm trying to change what is in your own main. And then when I click compare across Fox, it's just showing the two on
The
my
same
side.
thing.
So I'm trying. I don't get like what's happening there.
Okay. So yeah, so this base repository should be should basically be the original repository, and that should be my repository and my main branch. And this head repository basically should be your repository. So let's say your repository name is Kunle. So you have Kunle slash OSCA Calabar demo, and you're comparing your branch. So let's say you created your branch, and the name of your branch is Kunle. So you'll be comparing Kunle from your account to um my own repository.
Yes.
All right, so yep, that's it. Let me just go on the chat section. Huh. So that's basically it, and then you create like your pull request. So let me go back. I see how one. So hopefully I should see two soon, two shortly. Mm. Let me refresh. MTN, okay, MTN is okay. So basically, that's how to like create it. So I'll be looking forward to your pull request so I can merge it and just show as an example. Okay. So yeah, that's basically that thing that yeah, that's actually even the end. I think that's how I even start the good questions. So yeah, I would just keep on refreshing and you just create the pull request and I would see it on my end. So yeah, that brings us to an end. And when I see it, like I would like merge it. So yeah, Q&A. I'll be taking questions now. So if you have any, so we're going to try and make it orderly. If you have any question, you can just use the raise hand function. So I would call you and you'd tell me your question, or if you can't talk, you can just type it in the chat section and I would pick it from there and I would read your question. Yeah, it's time for Q&A.
Yeah, I am struggling to hear you. Did you open the floor for questions?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, okay. So guys, if you have more questions, if you have a question, please ask on the chat box. You can ask on the chat box. You can ask in the community channels where you belong, and I'll just look at it. Who's that's someone, Jane. Okay, Jane, you can go ahead. You can go ahead. Mute yourself. Ask your question,
All right. Good evening.
Jane.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah,
Good
yeah.
evening. Can you
We
hear me?
can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Thank you very much, Olusheye. I asked a question about Gitignore. Yeah. Lately, I've been working with Gitignore, and when I add the files I don't want to post to GitHub into it, it still reflects on my GitHub. Like I've searched online to see how I can fix it, and I've not been able to fix it. I don't know if Olusheye can help me. I don't know, maybe the Git
Oh,
is
okay.
not file should be created in the directory, I mean, maybe in the root directory of the project or somewhere. Like my environment file that I don't want to push to the GitHub. When I add now the normal process of adding the file you don't want to push to GitHub into Git is not. I'm pushing it
Yeah.
and it will ignore the file. So I still get
Oh,
to see it on GitHub. Thank
oh,
you.
okay. So okay, all right, welcome. So there are two ways to go around it, right? So the first way is I'm coming. Let me open like a repository, sorry, a folder that I'm actually working on. So I'm currently working on this, and this is my git ignore file here. So this is my git ignore. So I have so when you are trying, so my git ignore is in like my base. You can see it's in my base folder, right? So you don't, that's where I put my git ignore. Ideally, that is where the git ignore should be. So you can see that I'm using an env folder for my environment. And the thing is, you put for folders, you like put this backslash at the back. So that's basically how to that's basically how to ignore folders. So for example, now if I come here and let's say I want to ignore this my notebooks folder, so I go notebooks and I put this and I save it, and you can see that my notebooks folder, it becomes like it's not part of my it's not part anymore. You can see that this is empty, same as my models that I added here. So basically that's like how to that's actually. And also, for example, let me show you something. So I have this issue of a very stubborn file that is not meant to be, but it's on my folder. So basically I have this link, I have this like repository, and then I keep on having this. For example, now I don't like seeing this .ds store, but I added it to my git ignore. I first pushed and but I did not add it, but then I still added it. I keep on seeing it, and then there's something called ignore forcefully. I can't remember the full command, but it's something around how to forcefully ignore a file or a folder. So you'd have yeah, so you have like this F flag that you can use, and you can ignore, and then it takes it out of your git history, and then it forcefully ignores it. So you can use that. They're like answers online that you can do that. So you can do git add force and put the ignore file there. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, I hope it does. All right. So yes, any more questions? So for example now, okay, so we have Kunle that has been following, and so I've seen his I've seen his pull request, and basically I can check the files that have been changed, and we didn't have like it has like a Kunle.py file. So I would come here and I would merge. So I would see this merge pull request and I would look at it and I would merge it. So it has been merged. So if I come to my own, I would see, you can see that his file is here. And on GitHub, you had him as one of my contributors because his code has already been here. So yeah, that's basically just working with pull request. So now Kunle, on your end, if you like sync the forked version, you would see all of this. You will see this under your forked version. So that's just that. So any more questions from anyone? Does anyone have any more questions? Um, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat. You can. Okay, questions from me. Interesting. I don't plan for this, so but
Yeah,
let's
yeah, yeah.
go.
So can we have questions from you? So we can just do like a mini giveaway, right? So if you answer a question accurately, you can reach out to me for your maybe airtime gift if you want airtime or cash, right? So can we do that?
Okay, then that's fine. How many questions?
Okay. Maybe you should just ask. Let's see. 5 questions.
Okay, 5 questions. All right. So I think how we're going to do it is the first person that the answer comes up on the chat section. So we should not unmute ourselves so that we don't make it very noisy. So yeah, just get a keypad ready really. And I don't know. I just pray that your network is good and everybody's network is good so that if your answer should come first, you'll be the first person. And it's not going to be like, oh, I'm the first, you came second. Yeah, what's wrong? So yeah. The first question.
Ask technical questions. So
Yeah, I tried to think of a question because I didn't prepare for like asking questions. I prepared that everybody should ask questions. But then um I think I would ask this question. So if I want to see the history of my commits, my commit history, what command am I going to run? So fast. Okay. It's any more answers coming in? Okay, so we have git log. So yeah, git log is the answer. So you use git log to like see your commits, like your commit history. So okay, yeah, that's the first question. So second question, can what is basically okay, so what does it mean to clone a repository? Okay, are there any more answers coming in? Okay, to make a local copy, yes. To copy, yes. Well, clone, make a local copy, YouTube. So, yes. It's still Kunde again. Okay, all right. So, I mentioned when I was going through I was going through GitHub, I mentioned something called issues. So, what is GitHub issues? I think that one might be tricky a bit because I touched on it like once. Shared an issue on GitHub. To find an issue on GitHub, task to work on, to find bugs. Well, all of them are and they're kind of true features of functionality to be added to a project. Well, yes. So yeah, an issue is a tracking, it's basically a tracking spot. So you use it to track bugs, features, tasks to be worked on, questions, discussions. Basically, it could be anything, not just tasks per se or bugs or anything. But yeah, that's fine. I mean, that was a very long answer. So the next question is I'm thinking, what shall I ask? What shall I ask? So I said something about commit messages. So what did I say about commit messages? You can put it in your word because I don't remember exactly how I said it, but I mean it is what it is. Okay. It should be descriptive. Yes, they are descriptive of things. So it has the meaning of a commit message. But I said like what should your commit message be? But yeah, see the same thing. I mean description. Yep. Okay, is this my third or fourth question? I don't even know. Okay, fourth. Okay, so yeah, I think the fifth one should it be very, very hard or should it be easy? I don't know. Okay, yeah. So I mentioned a particular file, right? That basically tells you what your like your I'm not moving inside the question. So basically it tells you what your repository is all about. So I mentioned that. So all right, read me. Okay. Um So the question even dropped. Like, sorry, the repository, I be the instead repository, the answer dropped before it. Okay, so they said I should make the question very hard. Um, I don't know of any hard question. Can't think of any extreme hard question that I should ask, except okay, I don't think I touched this one, but anybody that can get it, that would be nice. How do you delete a branch? I didn't touch on that. That's true. That's a very hard question. Like I was said to ask, how do you delete a branch? Wow. Okay. Git branch D. All right. Any more? All right. Any more answers apart from James' answer? Apart from Johnson's answer?
I can see the people that are using ChatGPT. It's showing on my screen. Come on, guys.
Okay. There's still one person that has been putting the the answer. So should I wait for like 30 seconds or something? I don't know. Um okay. So I think that would
I think
say
that's
yeah. So yeah, I mean two people. So yeah, that's it. So before like I end, I'll just show and say locate the branch and find the trash can. So I'll just show it here. So I would check out to my main branch, and like I said, because my branch is already up to date. If I do git if I like do git status, oh no, let me check my so these are the files I have, but I've already merged like a change here, right? And it has curly.py. So the first thing I'll do is I'll pull my change. So I'll just do git pull on that branch, and you can see it's saying fast forwarding, one file changed. And if I do git my git log, you can see that this was my first commit, and this was Kunle's commit, and this is the pull request to merge Kunle's commit. So now I want to delete my Ifion branch because I'm not using it anymore, right? So I want to delete it. So you do git branch. So when you want to delete a branch, you like leave the branch that you want to delete. It's like you want to trash let's say they want to sell a house and you have another house you are moving to, but you are still inside that house. They obviously can't sell the house because you are still inside. So you have to totally leave. So that's exactly what we're doing. So you click git branch, then it could be small letter D or capital letter D. Anyone, I think it's small letter D. I think you use capital letter D when you're using. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But small letter D and the name of the branch. So it says this thing is not fully merged. So you can see that small letter D is telling me that it's not fully merged. But I want to do, like I want to delete it forcefully. So I use my capital letter D and I delete. So you can see deleted branch Ifion was 61022. And if I go here, if I scroll up to Ifion, let me see, git branch. The I'm trying to look for the 6 1 something. It should be somewhere here. I don't know. But I can't find it. I'm sorry. I can't I don't know my glasses, so I can't even see it clearly. But that's by the way. See it's here. 6 1 so that was the branch, that was like the branch number. And I moved here and then you can see it was 610 blah blah blah. So that's how you know that it has deleted your branch. And also there are ways to retrieve like deleted branches and all those kinds of things, but that's like literally out of the scope of what we have here. So that brings me to an end, I think. Yeah, I think after Q&A is basically thank you very much everyone for joining. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I open the app once a month, I'm not really active again on Twitter, but you can shoot me a message. I would see your notification and try my best to reply. Or you can open an issue on the you can open an issue on the repository we used today, and I will see a notification. I'll try and reply. So yeah, I mean that's all from me. Thank you very much for having me. So I think I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Hey, thank you so much. That was like really, really informative. I hope you guys, I hope you guys can, do your good things now. Thank you so much, Ifihan. It was so good to have you. Thank you for uh, sharing your knowledge with us. Felt like we took so much from you. Thank you so much. It's been over 2 hours now. We started by, yeah, almost 2 hours because I mean we started late. Yeah, so thank you so much everyone for joining. Um, yeah, reach out to Ifihan. I'll share her links on the community. I'll share her link on the community platforms. Yeah. All right, it's a wrap. Thank you guys for joining and have a great night. Yeah, the recording will be shared.